Welcome back to the KSS YouTube channel. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about V2 of the 7th gen because we've done a lot of updates over the winter on the car. We'll show you quickly the stuff that you don't need to worry about because there's not that big of a change. So we'll just go into the engine bay. This relates to probably the back of the car as well because there's a new fuel system. So we have a PQI fuel rail. So no stock fuel rail anymore. We got the gauge on the rail. New 10AN E85 compatible fuel lines. I deleted the pressure gauge off the regulator, and as you can see, as I said, it's on the rail now. I have the car stored at a different place. That's why there's all this tape here, and it's going to be traveling to go do some testing for the next video as a first ride. But yeah, so under the hood, turbo stuff is all the same. The tubular manifold, GT3582, journal bearing, 44mm wastegate like last year, same intercooler piping. So yeah, let's go into the stuff that I actually changed that's going to be a structural change of the car. We talked about it in the last video, or one of the last videos when I was taking the car apart, all the rust and all the Swiss cheese holes, and how disgusting this floor was. But now it's completely done and it looks really nice. Not completely done. You can put your feet down, but there's something there are holes, but they just need to be covered for the all-wheel drive system. But we'll get into that later. You guys are going to see that in a second. So yeah, let's open the door and check her out. So we have a all new patched floor. So this one was done in 3 sections. This is the passenger side, obviously. 1, 2, 3 sections. I have 2 new frame rails bolted into the car. And the holes I was just talking about was these here for the all-wheel drive tunnel. Just the sidewalls I have not covered yet because I was getting onto stuff to actually get the car running and onto the trailer. The wire there, we'll get to that in a second because that's the fun part, the power part. But yeah, new floor, all done. And you might have seen while Aiden was walking around, but we have some new side skirts. These are custom made by myself. So I made 2 brackets that go onto my new rockers that I made. And then there's a whole big piece of steel that holds these 3 bolts, and they are very sturdy, ready to take some aerodynamics and just make it look nice because it had no rockers and I was kind of tired of the stock look. So I made these myself. They look nice. Now let's get into the trunk. It's already popped. This is where the power comes in because we are able to make way more power now. So not necessarily with what I'm about to show you now, but what it connects to after, absolutely. We have a 10-gallon fuel cell with all 10AN connectors. So we're gonna start at the top. This is a return line, not the feed line. Obviously, it just returns after the regulator back into the tank. But down into here, I have a block off because when you get these tanks, there's a 2 ports. So one's blocked off, one is fed into my fuel pump, which that's the actual power thing that we're gonna get into. There's a breather I made, just 10AN with some line into the chassis, just so it breathes because you need circulation to go into your tank, or else you're just gonna be starving that pump and just sucking in nothing. The bracket to hold the fuel pump or fuel cell in place is a H pattern, or like H form. So it goes like this, and you can see the bolts down here. But now we're gonna go take a light underneath the car and we're gonna show you the fuel system, the actual fuel pump itself, and see what we have and what we should be capable of making with this car, because it's not going down in power, it's going up, obviously, that we don't go down in power. But yeah, I'm gonna go get a light and I'm gonna shine down so I can show you the actual whole fuel system, well, at the pump, and then yeah, you guys are gonna see that next. We have my feed line that goes into a filter, and then in the middle there is a AM400 pump. So, and with 10AM line, if according to the paper, it's good for 1,000 or 1,100 horsepower. So that's some big dog, like I'm playing with the big dogs now, yeah. Power capable. We're still running around 600, but I definitely want to boost it like way more this summer, get a couple more pounds of boost, and see what I'm capable of doing myself with the tuning situation. That'd be nice. But no, we are capable to make a lot. We are able to make a lot more power now with that big pump. So 10AN E85 compatible, so Teflon inside the line, all the way to the rail, which we showed at the beginning. And then on the way back to the tank is just some 5/8 line, because I actually ran out of 10AM line and it would not come in time for me to get the car running for the time I needed it to be. So back to the structural part of the car. These are my frame rails that I made. So these are 1/8 steel plates, not plates, just sheets bent. So we have 1.5, I think it was 2.5, 3.5, 2.5 back again, that clamps onto the channel, like the original channel where the frame rail started on the original design of the 7th gen. And it's just from the front, where the, like I said, where the frame rail started, all the way to the back, bolted to a thick part. And then it's bolted every, I'd say, I think I did around 6 inches. I'd do a bolt, so bolt, 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 every 6 inches down the way that it's bolted. And just one bolt through the center at the front of the car. During, like, there's a little hole that's originally there from the chassis. There's a bolt through there. So it's very sturdy, very strong. The floor is nice. Like, we don't have any holes anymore. It's not a piece of Swiss cheese. Another structural part, I'm gonna walk around, we'll get that in the next shot, is the seats. So give me 2 seconds. Another cool part of this car now is EP3 seats. As if you are in the Honda game, you might know that EP3 seats are desirable because they have like a nice racing shape from factory. As you can see, they hold you nicely. These are from the EP3 that we bought a long time ago. I crashed it too many times this summer, or this winter, drifting into snowbanks. I hit a guardrail during an ice storm. What else? The exhaust fell off, and the car is pretty much not roadworthy whatsoever. It's going to need a lot of fixing if ever it's going to go back on the road. So I decided to take the seats out. I always wanted EP3 seats, and the car's not roadworthy, so it's just the perfect opportunity. I already have them, didn't have to pay anything. This is the driver's seat. As you can see, it's worn out, which is the one that gets worn the most. These are the brackets, 1/8 steel, just bent to 90 degree. That one is on a different angle, so it's about, I'd say, 40 degrees-ish. It's just an approximate. When it bolted, it just flexed into place. So there's an original bolt, which is flat into the car. The threaded part is still in the car. Then I based everything off that. So 1, 2, 3 are custom-made brackets, which I'll show you how I did those because I have a new set made for the passenger side. One day is going to be racing seats. It's just on the budget and how much I spent on this car over winter. I'm going to slow her down and use these seats for now. I'll go show you how I made those brackets and the design of them completely. So let's get to that. This is the original bolt that there's still threads in the car from the original floor. And these are the brackets that I made. And I'm going to be flexing the welds because they came out really nice. So this is the 45-degree one. This is a long one because one is lower than the other. Like the floor is lower at one part, so you need longer metal. And then this is the simple 90-degree right here. So bolt it into place, and then you just bolt it into the floor. These are two 5/16 bolts. Do it, put your holes, drill your holes, and then have them into the car, and then take a Sharpie and drill an approximate hole. These are 3/8 that hold the bolts, or the seat to the bracket is 3/8 bolts with a lock nut, and this is the original Honda bolt, which is a 14mm head M10. But yeah, those are the seat brackets. That's how I designed that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be working on is the e-brake / parking brake. I'm going to show you guys in a second. With the chassis change with the all-wheel drive tunnel, I had to do some modifications to the actual e-brake, but there's a stock bolt left, so I know where to base it off of. I already got started with drilling, but I'll explain that to you right now, and I'll point at what I'm talking about. So as you can see, there's my tunnel. It's all flat. There's an original bolt hole right here left, which is for this bolt hole here. I'll show you guys how it's mounted, which is like so. But so the modifications to the mechanism itself, like I said, it used to go down the chassis of the car, but now it's a straight tunnel. So all I had to do was clamp this to a table, this part, which is the original bolt hole. And this had a mechanism. I wish I had the piece right now to explain and show you in detail, but it went down and it mounted, let's say, here. So once you clamp this down to a table, all you need to do is measure and make a T-bracket of some sort. That's what I did right there, welded it on, and as you can see, it sits flat. Well, I just had it in the car and you guys saw, but that's the new bracket that I made. So that's going to be the new handbrake handle. I'm also going to show you what I'm doing for the battery rack right here. So the original setup for the battery was just a strap that went into this hole here and then into this hole here. The new system is going to be a bolt, which I just drilled this hole here about 5-10 minutes ago. This is going to go through here, bolt it into the chassis, and this is going to go inside of that and hold this in place, and then I'm just going to run a strap all the way down into this original hook. This is an old system. I made this a long time ago when I actually built or first swapped the car. It's just a thick plate that I made. These are like my first welds, as you could see, when I was like really starting to get into fabrication. But yeah, that battery rack's been there for years and it's still holding. But yeah, right now I was just going to be making that strap system, cut it to length, and I'll get a shot of that after it's done. So I'm going to bolt that in and show you guys how it looks. So as I'm doing my battery mount, I look under the car and I'm like, there's a little bit of oil. And I was like, I know my drain plug is tight, and I know I tightened my oil return. I tried and tighten it. It was tight, and then it was really weird. I was trying to tighten it and everything was spinning at once, which it's supposed to rotate because it's a swivel type fitting. I'm gonna go show you what I found and what it's supposed to be, and it'll be a lesson as to why you always bring spare parts, especially when you're about to go racing. Because you could be left in, you could go all this distance and then you can just be stuck there because you didn't bring an extra part. So I'm going to show you guys that right now. Okay, so in my race box right there with all my extra parts, I have all my extra fittings here, like a bunch of AN stuff. This is what I have under the car as the to the pan side of my oil return line, and this is what I found. That's supposed to be one piece, so ignore this red piece. This goes onto the line, but this here is supposed to just stay on, not move or anything. And this was really hard to turn, and as you can see, there's a scuff mark right there and like into the fitting. This was just spinning like together because it was about to come off, and it actually did while I was taking the line off. So I'm just going to take this part here and just screw it back into my oil line, so it's going to have a fresh 45-degree fitting at the pan, and I will not have that oil leak, and I'll have an actual good swivel fitting at the oil pan for my drain line on the turbo. Because if that would have popped off during a pull, we would have ran out of oil, and let's say you don't detect it in time, you can blow an engine. You'll just ruin all your bearings, no oil pressure, and would have been terrible. So I'm going to fix that. That was an unexpected little job. Probably going to take me, I'd say, half an hour. But yeah, so I'm going to get onto that and just put a oil line, or put the old oil line back on. So I'll get to that right now. All right, so I got done with all my fab work. We just did an emergency run to the post office because I got a fuel pressure regulator rebuild kit from Technotic. I had to go to the post office because like I said, we are in a flood right now, so they cannot deliver it to my house. I had to go get it at the post office. Jeremy and Ty have joined me, so they're just doing some shifter cables on Ty's car right now. They just put a little kit right here. These are what, bull boost?
Yeah,
bull boost shift cables. Yeah, so they're just installing those right now in the car and in the engine bay. But yeah, so I'm gonna go down under the car and show you what I did for the brake setup. All right, so I'm under the vehicle right now. This is gonna be a very awkward way of filming because I'm like in a weird angle. But okay, so I'm gonna explain. This is the front of the car behind me, well, behind my head, and that's the rear of the car. So you have your e-brake lines or your handbrake lines coming up through the car. Then they're here. They're just tie wrapped temporarily because this is gonna have to be taken back apart because of that little hole situation I was talking about 2 seconds ago. So this is how it's held. Is I made a plate, took it was 90 degrees from the store, and I just bent it to about 45 degree angle. And then there's a clamp, which is a stock clamp off the Honda 7th gen chassis. It's bolted, holds these cables in place, and then that's bolted up onto here. It's all solid, works very well. But like I said, I'm gonna have to, you can see the hole right there. That's the hole where the cable goes through, and I'm just gonna have to make them bigger because that does not work right at all. And then earlier I just taped up all the rest of the wiring like I explained yesterday. This is good for a test day at the track. I still want to put some P-clamps, which I forgot at home in the flood water. I can't get to them right now, so I'm just gonna have to redo that another time. But this is perfect, good enough for a test pass. We're all good to go. So yeah, like I said, I'm gonna take those jack stands out, put the car down, strap it down, good to go. Everything's tight, out of the way, good for at least a day of test passes. I'm gonna get out under the car. So yeah, that's all hooked up and good enough for test passes like I was just saying. Now I'm gonna explain the battery situation. So what I did here was This was about like this for years. And then what I did this morning earlier was make a hook. It was like an eyelet, so it was a full round. I just ground a hole and it's just bolted in. That hook is bolted in to the chassis like so. And that's gonna hold it nicely for, well, probably a good while. I don't think I want to change that. But yeah, so the battery's in place, all taped down, or all tightened down. I need to bleed coolant, put the car down, and then we'll be good to strap it and then put it onto the truck. But yeah, so I'll get to that and then I'll close out the video. All right, so this is gonna be a filler outro because we didn't film one. It got really late, like 10 o'clock, it was dark. I had just finished preparing for filming the next video. Right now I'm just, those side skirts I showed you, I'm just clear coated them as a temporary solution so they don't rot. But anyway, we're gonna close the video now. And the next one you guys are gonna love. It's gonna be a, no, I'm not even gonna tell them. I'm not even gonna tell them what it is. But anyway, we hope you enjoyed and we'll see you in the next one.